Hey everyone, welcome back to the Money Level Show where we think, act, and prosper. Today we're going to get into a video of one of my favorite rappers. T.I. has always been one of my favorite hip hop artists for a long time since I was a teenager. And a recent video that went viral about him and his son getting into an altercation at the Atlanta Falcons game. And we're going to dive into that. I mean, this has some financial implications to it. And so I think that this would be good for us to tap into this experience that they happen, not to dehumanize them or anything of that nature, but to see what we can learn from this experience. So let's go ahead and jump into the intro, and then we will get into the video.
Think, act, and prosper. You are now tuned into the Money Level Show.
All right, everyone. So I normally don't react to a lot of these types of things that happen socially. People live their lives, they do what the heck they want to do. However, when I saw this altercation, it really hit me because I have a son who is 14 years old, and I always have the mindset that I want to give my kids the life that I never had, and I always see this mindset, even with my parents, well, at least with my mother, where she wanted to give us the lifestyle she never had. So she was always making sacrifices and doing what she needed to do to get us into a better position, even moving us out of the urban hood, to move to Washington State to be in a better situation to where we could have more opportunity and things of that nature. And so, this is kind of like a generational thing where we want to see our kids do better than we have. And so we got some commenters coming in, Homestead coming in. Hey, what's going on? Good to see you. Good to see you. Uh, just jumped out of Jeremiah. Good topic. Gotcha. Appreciate you for tapping in, dropping a comment. Those of you that are tuning in, be sure to drop a comment. Love to hear from you. So we're just going to jump over to this quick video that I pretty much pulled up from YouTube. And this is an altercation with T.I. and his son, who is 19 years old. And this happened in public around a lot of people. So let's go ahead and jump over to the video. Here we go. Boom. All right. So the video is on YouTube, and it's T.I. and son get into screaming match, nearly brawl at the Falcons game.
You are embarrassing yourself. You embarrassing yourself. You are embarrassing yourself. You are embarrassing yourself. Hey, what is you talking about?
All right, so this is happening in the middle of Falcons game. Everybody's around. T.I. is a high-profile figure. His son is a high-profile figure. And so everybody's just watching this. His father and son get into a altercation in the middle of the game. And as you can see, they're sharing words back and forth. His son is saying, "Get off me." T.I. saying, "You embarrassing yourself." And I think he's manhandling him as the father or whatnot. But we're going to jump into some more.
Well, you can't do nothing with me. Ain't shit you can do with me.
All right. So as you can see, I mean, his son allegedly came out and claimed that he suffered hardships growing up. And many people are pushing back against that because T.I., who is married to Tiny used to sing with Escape. They are both big music artists. They're both pretty wealthy people. And his son is saying that he suffered hardships growing up. Now, that's a lot to unpack there, because hardships look different for everyone. I mean, you have the rich kids who get into struggle with depression or substance abuse, and they go down that path, and that's considered hardships, right? Versus like the kids that grew up in poverty, didn't have parents really around, or had a single parent that grew up, that raised them, and multiple siblings, and unemployment in the home, drug use in the home, abuse in the home, foster care, things like that. So hardships is very subjective, um, be, because it's pretty much subjective to the individual that is experiencing them. However, Ti son, did grow up in a potentially in a, I think he lives in a mansion or something like that. He grew up in a huge house, things of that nature, and he had a lot of his needs taken care of. And so many people are saying, like, okay, well, you didn't really grow up in hardships, like you have a wealthy parent, blah 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 blah. So that's subjective. Now, what I want to talk about is, oftentimes, me as a father of three kids, I'm always looking at, hey, I want to give my kids the life that I didn't have. I grew up in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. I grew up on the east side, Garden Oaks, where there was a lot of gangs, all this type of stuff, right? The straight hood stuff. A lot of my family been to prison, all those different things. And so I grew up in that type of environment. And so my mom, she made a lot of sacrifices to get me out of that situation. And so now for me, it's like, okay, I need to make sure that I'm living my life financially well, so that my kids are not in the same situation that I had to grow up in. So looking at things like that, I mean, I'm the second person in our family to own a home. So that's like one piece of it. It's like, okay, this is something I can generationally pass down to my kids. Starting investment accounts for my kids, starting life insurance policies for my kids, for myself, having a will in place, all those different things, right? And so those things that I consider being a good steward of what you have been blessed with. But it's also like, at the heart of it is like, okay, I want to give my kids something that I never had. It's things that I didn't have, opportunities that I didn't have, because I had to work hard, bust my tail, fight tooth and nail, blood, sweat, and tears to get to where I am today. Right. And I'm still not where I want to be, but they have an opportunity. I want to set them up to have an opportunity to where they aren't starting, where I had to start, or where my parents had to start, or where their parents had to start. Right. And so it's all about, for me, I just think about that. So now, feel free to chime in, drop comments. I mean, I'm not the only parent on here. Other people may be parents, but answer the question. I mean, the question is, should you give your kids the life that you never had? Feel free to chime in, drop a comment. I think that what's up, Aceto? Good to see you. Appreciate you chiming in today, tapping in. So I feel that there's a couple things. One thing is, like, even for like my kid, my son, I mean, he's 14. I think about giving him the life. Oh, that was what I really focused on when he was younger. Like, oh, I want to give him the life I never had, and things like that. But you have kids that take it for granted, so you have many kids that take it for granted. They don't understand the blessings. They don't understand the hard work that it took to get there, the blood and sweat and tears that took you to get to where you are today. And so I think that if you alleviate them, or keep them from having to experience hard work, and how hard it is to obtain a particular position that you're in, then they're not going to learn how to appreciate it. So that's kind of what I'm getting at with this video here as well, because we can say, okay, T.I. son King said he experienced a lot of hardships, right? Hardships are subjective based on the person, right? I mean, we can compare hardships. We can say, okay, you grew up in a mansion, I grew up in the hood where we didn't have nothing. So I had it harder than you. However, the other person could say, well, I grew up in a environment where my parents didn't spend quality time with me. They were always on the road doing shows and blah, 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 blah. But you had a mom in the home that was actually taking care of you and cooking you a meal. So hardships can be subjective. However, uh, the question becomes like, should King, T.I.'s son, be grateful for what he has had, even though he has experienced hardships? And I think that that's the key. For me, it's like, okay, I experienced hardships, but I still have to have a level of gratitude, for where I'm at and what I didn't have to experience. I mean, this is very related to, even when you think of like privilege, you think of racial issues, all those different things, right? We still have issues today, and we're nowhere perfect as a nation, as a people, anything, and so I don't think anyone is perfect, right? But within that, it's like, okay, well, I still have to have some type of gratitude from what my people have had to gone through, or what they did to get to where we are today. You know what I'm saying? And so like I have to have some gratitude for that, even because I know that my experience isn't as hard as my fourth or fifth great grandfather who were enslaved or worked in farms, had to do hard work, all those different things, right? And so like my experience isn't that same. So even though I may have some hardships here and there, it's like, okay, I still have to have a level of gratitude to notice like it wasn't as hard as they had to experience it, And so, and I think that, what King, probably should have done is like, hey, I went through some hardships. I had some hardships with my father and mother, blah, blah, blah. But I'm grateful for what they provided for me. Many kids around the world would dream to be in the position that I'm in. So that's kind of what I think. But he's 19 years old, so I don't expect every 19-year-old to really have that high level of thinking. We're gonna jump to the comments. Let's see. Acito said, yeah, privilege is invisible to those who have it. Agree. That was very simple, but very profound. Privilege is invisible to those who have it. I agree. And I think that goes for all people, just like how I said, like sometimes I can get caught in my little bubble. Oh, I'm going through X, Y, and Z. I'm doing da da da. Nobody had it as hard as me, and it's like, no, like dog, I've been doing my family tree, and many of my many of my ancestors were enslaved or came over here in poverty, so like I can't say that I'm not privileged in any type of way, right? Because I'm benefiting off their labor or their sacrifices, so that's definitely important. Let's see. Homestead said, don't spoil them, let them work up into their own in a good place. They learn from the work themselves. I agree. They do have to learn from the work themselves, because if they don't work for it, I think that it's hard for them to appreciate it because they haven't experienced what you have had to do to get to where you are. Like, and they have to experience that. My son, for example, recently he had a birthday. He got like $500. I'm like, hey, how much of that are you going to invest in your stock account? No, 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 I'm not investing anything, Dad. I don't want to invest in my stock account. I'm like, hey, why don't you make your money grow? Like for me, like I don't give him money, but he may get money. He gets money from his mom's side of family and things like that. Um, and so he doesn't want to invest. He doesn't want to make his money grow. So for me, like any on my side of the family, because me and his mom aren't together. Like she's remarried, I'm remarried, but I'm married. She's married, I'm married. So, on my side, it's like, okay, my mom sent him some money. Okay, thanks, mom. I'm putting half of this into a stock account and he'll get the other half, right? Because he doesn't even process like how to make his money grow. He just wants to go out and spend it. He doesn't realize like the hard work, the amount of hours and labor behind a 9 to 5 that all these people put together to be able to give him something for his birthday. He doesn't experience that level of hard work. So I automatically take 50% of anything that he gets from my side of the family or anything that I'm going to give him, and it goes into his investment account. And so we're going to jump to some more comments. Homestead said, yeah, Hardships are subjective in so many ways and levels. Agreed. Everyone has different tolerances. Not everyone is a person that can handle extreme hardships, so not everyone is it can handle that. So it's definitely important. So for those who are just jumping in, I'll jump back to the video. It's like about a minute long, but this is what we were discussing. And so neophyte Patrick Bet David has videos about all about this, also about generation wealth, has passed down and destroyed. Shout out to Patrick Bet David. Love valuetainment. He's providing a lot of good content over there. Neophyte, rip to Charlie Munger. Yep, rest in peace, Charlie Munger, man. 99 years old. He lived a long life for sure. Condolences to his family. But the goal is to get old. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want to make it to Charlie Munger's age, and still be in good health. That's kind of the goal for me. It's like I want to make it to Charlie Munger's age and still be in good health. But rest in peace. He's taught a lot of people a lot of things in terms of the investment world. So appreciate the JT for the super chat. Be sure to drop a super chat if you all are on. You can drop a 99 cents, $1.99, whatever you feel like donating. Keep this content alive for many viewers out there. Neophyte said, I think most parents want their child to have more than they had. Agreed. That's what I was discussing earlier. Is that me? I want to give my kids a better life than I had. But when you think of better life, you know what I'm saying? That right there, that term better life is often, I think, Americanized to think of just stuff or consumer goods. When it's a lot deeper than that. I mean, you got to think about the community they're raised in. You got to think about, wealth plays a part of that, right? You got to think about, the spiritual walk, their mental health, all those different things. Like, you got all these different cards to play. Like, I can be a workaholic just for money, just so we can just buy stuff, right? However, I'm sacrificing things. There's a cost benefit to that. The cost of that is I'm not spending as much time with my kids. I'm not investing in their mental health, emotional health, spiritual health, and physical health. All those different things, right? Some of you may know I had a minor heart attack last year. It runs in my family. It's very genetic, so now I'm having conversations with my kids about what they eat and how much they work out. You need to work out. This happened to your great grandfather. This happened to your great great grandfather. This happened to your grandfather. This happened to me. Even though mine was like a small branch off artery, it was too small to stent. It wasn't a main artery, but still, it's like that was a scary experience based off the the genetics of my family. So I'm teaching my kids that. So that's a part of wealth. Like, health is wealth in a lot of ways. So if you don't have good health, you can't even enjoy the wealth that you have. So like taking care of your bodies, things like that. So there's a lot of different ways that you have to invest in your family and in your kids, because leaving them with a better life is bigger than just consumer goods and whatnot. And you're seeing that. I mean, you're seeing that with King and T.I. I mean, here. I'm gonna go ahead and we're gonna drop one more. We're gonna look at one more comment, and then we're gonna go back to the video and just show you all what I'm talking about again. So Homestead said, my friend's dad worked his tail off all his life and became well off. My friend didn't like that old boat they had. He said to his dad, Dad, we are rich. Let's buy a new boat. His dad looked at him and said, no, son, I'm rich. If you want a better boat, work for it. Yep. That's real. You got to put in the work. You got to put in the work. You got to know, you got to value it. Like, if you don't value what you have, you would just treat it like trash. If you did not have to work hard to get to where you at, you would just throw it away. Easy. That's just easy. So like, I think like even for a lot of people, like for me, many, I think I showed I think I showed y'all this. We've gotten deep on this show a few times. I think I showed my paperwork from like when I went to jail and all this stuff years ago. But like I think about this, like I've worked hard to get to where I'm at now. Like I had to change my mindset, my spiritual walk changed, walking with Christ. I had to go through some very hard times working minimum wage jobs, working jobs, had child support killing my checks, all this stuff. I had to go through some blood, sweat, and tears. So I worked hard to get to where I am now. So now I value everything that I have now because I know the extent of the amount of work I had to do to get here. And so same thing for kids. Like kids have to know the value of what they have, and they don't know the value of what they have if you oftentimes if you just give it to them. Like, hey, here you go. Like my son, 2 years, he's gonna be driving probably. I think he's gonna be driving, and he'll be 16 years old. So like, if I just give him a car, he's probably just gonna like, yeah, my dad's gonna take care of it for me. Yeah, my dad gave it to me. I'm like, nah, man, I think you're gonna have to go get a job so you can help pay for this insurance bill, so that you can know like how hard it is to keep up with this stuff, so that you can actually have something valuable, so that you can know what the value is. So that's very important. I'm just jump back to this video real quick. Let me share the screen. Boom, just to see, just so y'all can see. It's just a minute long video. I'm not trying to show the whole thing and go a deep dive into this. Like it's unfortunate their family had this situation at the game, but it is what it is.
You are embarrassing yourself. You're embarrassing yourself. You are embarrassing yourself. You are embarrassing yourself. Man, what is she talking about? Well, you can't do nothing with me. Ain't shit you can do with me.
So they got the live camera on while they're having a physical altercation at the Atlanta Falcons game. That's a low point for the family, I'm sure. But yeah, so let's see who we got on here. Let's see, we got some people doing some shout outs to each other. Appreciate y'all tapping in with each other. Cito said facts. Homestead said truth. Rocio said great message, brother. Hey, be sure to go check out the interview I did with Saita Rocio. She's from Argentina. We talked about inflation. We talked about Javier Milei and how people are hoping for a new situation there, as they've been experiencing a lot of high inflation for a long time. So be sure to go check that interview out. So yeah, we just got some folks in here saying what's up. And so Ryan James said T.I.'s son is a Muppet. Hey, hey, no comment. I mean, you just see reaction right there. I mean, I think that, obviously he's saying like, oh, I went through hardships, and I was saying earlier, hardships is very subjective. It's built on, I think hardships are based on the build of the individual. Some people can endure harder things than other people. However, there should be a level of gratitude, that we should come, when we have blessings. You got to count your blessings and everything. So, but he's 19. Hopefully he can learn from this hard experience. It looks like he got manhandled by his dad in public. And so, yeah. See, Cito said cautiously, hopefully on Argentina. Yep, exactly. So, yeah. So, I think that ultimately, we want to give our kids, the life we didn't have. And if kids don't experience the hard work, if we just spoil them and just give them what they want and all these different things, like they don't know the value of the dollar. They don't know the value of the work. They don't know how many hours you had to put in to buy whatever you purchased for them or whatever you did for them. And so, yeah, I just think that we have to be wiser in that situation. And for me, what I'm doing, like I said, I take anytime my family sends my kids money, I don't just go buy them stuff. I just told my wife this the other day. We buy stuff to get tired of stuff, to give it to Goodwill, to buy more stuff. Like it's like we just end up donating. Like our nation is so consumer driven. Like it's terrible, and I'm experiencing it. I'm seeing it a lot more clear now. And so like just how much we've given away. It's like, hey, we're giving away a lot of stuff now. Hey, we just bought all this stuff, now we're just buying more stuff. Like, it doesn't suffice. So now it's like, okay, I can't have my kids go through that. So anything my family gives them, they are going to have to give half of that over to Uncle Sam, which is me. Yep. All right, y'all. So I got to get going. I got to jump on a interview with Surfer Stacker. Sent me a Zoom link to jump on. So I'm going to jump on his channel and everything. So I appreciate you all for tuning in, and I hope this situation turns out well for T.I. and King and the family, that they're able to heal from this situation and express more gratitude for each other and their situation, because they are in a more privileged situation than many other people. And so I hope that that can occur. So you all take care. And yep, JT, I'm jumping on there now. He sent me the Zoom link. Yeah. Let's see. I may have to call him and see if y'all want to go live, I can see if he can go live on his channel. If y'all want me to hit him up right now, maybe we could do it live. What y'all think? Y'all want me to do that? Will y'all head over to Surfer's channel if we go live? Yes, it's I mean, he has a Zoom link open right now. All right, let me play a commercial real quick, and then I'm gonna give him a call. Hey everyone, sorry for the break in action, but I have to let you know that I am now an affiliate with Miles Franklin. Miles Franklin has been a bullion dealer for over 30 years, and they provide some of the highest quality service to their clients, as well as fair pricing on bullion products. So purchasing bullion through Miles Franklin not only stores wealth for yourself, but you're also supporting this channel to continue to provide free educational material for retail investors. And oh snap, I messed it up. All right, y'all, I'm sending him a text now. If you don't have Surfer Stacking's channel, let me actually drop the link for it real quick. I gotta find JT's comment so I can hide it. All right, let me drop the link for his channel. Just 1 second. Let me play this commercial one more time. Take a break, y'all. I gotta find this stuff. We doing this live right now. Hey everyone, sorry for the break in action, but I have to let you know that I am now an affiliate with Miles Franklin. Miles Franklin has been a bullion dealer for over 30 years, and they provide some of the highest quality service to their clients, as well as fair pricing on bullion products. So purchasing bullion through Miles Franklin not only stores wealth for yourself, but you're also supporting this channel to continue to provide free educational material for retail investors and those who may not be aware of many financial concepts that I discuss on this channel. So you can get started by sending an email to info@milesfranklin.com or calling 952-929-7006. Be sure to let them know that Daryl Thomas or the Money Level Show sent you, and I will receive credit for your service. I thank you all for considering this. Now let's get back to the interview. All right. So I'm just getting in touch with Stacking Surfer right now. Surfer Stacking. JT dropped the link for me. So yeah, I haven't heard from him yet, but I'm probably just gonna honestly invite him to the StreamYard. We could just do it right here too. So Let me see if he can hop on real quick. Boom. All right. So how y'all doing out there anyway? What's going on in y'all lives? What's happening? Love to hear from y'all. What's happening in y'all lives right now? What's happening in y'all lives? I know JT probably at work. JT probably at work right now. What's happening at work? JT, you ducking the bosses right now? What's happening? What's been happening? Let's see. Cito said, trying to buy as much FSM and EXK. All right. Let me go ahead. Dang, you at work too, man? Y'all both at work, man. Y'all must got the AirPods in or something. The skull candies in or something. Huh? All right, we about to go look at this though. Cito said EWK in hold up, it wasn't EWK. What'd you say? EXK and FSM. Let's see. Let's see what they talking about. Endeavor Silver Court. All right. I'm gonna go ahead and share the screen. We're just gonna look at some of these pickers, these stock tickers. I said pickers. We're gonna look at some of the pickers real quick. Tickers. All right, here we go. Cito want to give some stock picks he's looking at. Let's go. Endeavor Silver Corp. Let's look at the charts. Cito, what draws you to this company? What draws you to this company? I would like to know what draws you to this company. I'm looking at it now. It looks like what they're high. They were at what, $7? $7. Let's see. What is the value of this company, do you think? It's Endeavor Silver Corp. Okay, so and then I see you have FSM right here as well. You loading the boat. Let's see their holders. Who holds this company? You got Van Eck and big fund there. Jupiter ETF Managers Group. Top mutual fund holders. The Global Metals and Silvers Miners. You got Sprott. Okay, Sprott owns them. Van Eck owns them. Okay, that's cool. So what draws you to this company? Let's see. It's battered and bruised. Silver is ready to run too. Only way is up. Got you. I feel you on that. Because yeah, it's definitely silver's been, silver stocks have been bruised quite a bit. They've been beaten down. And so let's see. So I'm gonna go ahead and run over to FSM. Well, let's look at some other things. From them. All right, so let's look at the financials. Income statements here. That's the annual. Let's look at the quarterly. It's kind of weird, like when you look at income statements and stuff, because like sometimes they just have all these extra words, like one company may label it a certain way and then another company may label it a different way, and you're like, okay, is this the same thing or what? Sometimes it just gets super confusing. Let's look at the cash flow. Cash expenditure, operating cash flow. Let's see, that's 2022 quarterly. Investing cash flow. These are in what, thousands of dollars? So that's 613,000. Okay. Investing cash flow. Cash flow. Dang, so they don't got no cash, man. They ain't got no cash. They in the negative. This is what negative. These are thousands. So what? Negative. That's 1,000. Yeah, that's negative 31 million in free cash flow. I mean, that may not matter. I mean, when you get speculators in, it probably does not matter, to be honest. But their cash flow is not looking too hot. Let's go over to FSM. I'm just looking at some other comments. Homestead says staying warm and doing the work inside the house. I feel that. Ryan James said JT coin rings ordered that magic of gold India half ounce gold coin on AppMex currently in transit. It's a bad AppMex better run me my coin. I gotta see that. JT, you got that on the way to your crib, man. I didn't hear about that, man. Ryan James taking note. Homestead said the stock info is just one thing I wish I knew. What would you like to know, Homestead? So when you're looking at stock info, what are some things that you like to know? I know a few things. Actually, Surfer Stacker just hit me up. Link is all right. I'm about to tell him to click the link. Hey, Surfer, click the link I emailed you. I'm up here typing you the freaking comment, and you're right there. I can just talk to you. I sent you the link so you can join, and I'm gonna add you to the stream. Obviously, we can still do something for your channel, but you can log in with your YouTube channel. You can stream to both channels or whatnot. But you can also just jump in the stream as well. Let's see. Homestead said, I'm not even a beginner in stock, my friends. So everything too much. Yeah. It's kind of hard. Sometimes it can be hard because you got to know where to start. You know what I mean? Like one thing that I look for in a company. So I don't just go out and just find any company. First of all, like, dang, they had a nice little run up today. I try not to just go out and just find any company. I look for people that I follow, and I look at names that they throw out there. So, like for example, I mean, we all watch Rick Rule. Rick Rule drops some. He drops some. I'm gonna add stack and circle that they throw out there. So, like for example, I think Surfer, you got the Rick Rule on another thing. Stack and circle.
Just a second, I got.
All right, cool. I just muted you till that's figured out, but you can unmute whenever you're ready. I think I don't know if you got another screen on and it's playing the live, and then this one's different. Let's see.
I'm good now.
Okay, cool. How you doing today?
Good. How are you doing? I'm
doing good. I'm glad to have you on. So yeah, I was just answering Homestead. He said I'm not even a beginner with stocks, my friend. So everything, and so pretty much, I mean, Homestead, like it kind of depends. I had this conversation with Rick about being an alpha investor or a beta investor. And so alpha investor is someone who wants to go into the nitty gritty of every single stock, right? Or every single stock they invest in, which that's like, okay, we're going to go look at the balance sheets. We're going to look at the charts. We're going to look at the dividends. We're going to look at the debt, all those types of things, right? Who owns the company, who holds the company, all those things. So you're getting to know the companies that you own. A beta investor is more of someone that's like, okay, I want the luxury of being able to do whatever I want to do without having to worry about the market. So they'll go buy like an ETF. So an ETF, would be exchange traded fund, which they are the ones that go out and buy the different companies and then hold that basket of companies. And so the ETFs are a lot more liquid. and they are less riskier, but you don't get as much reward as if you were to pick like the individual stocks. And so you just got to kind of assess, like, the first thing is figuring out what type of investor are you. Are you a passive investor where you want to do mutual fund ETFs? Like, hey, I'm bullish on gold. I don't know which gold stocks. Let me just buy the ETF because let me just buy the sector by getting the ETF. That's a way that you can buy gold or whatnot. But and so you got to figure out if you're a passive investor or you're an active investor. Do you want to be listening to the quarterly earnings or hearing interviews from the CEOs, all those different things, right? And so you just got to figure out what type of investor are you. And then other layers to it, are you a trader or are you an investor? And you don't have to be one or the other. You can blend both of them together. Like, I've done a few trading things with you all over the years, like, but I don't consider myself mainly a trader. So that's my take on it. You got anything to add, Stacking? Sure.
Yeah. I've been playing with the stock market since about 1998 is when I got started in the stock market. What I typically do, I've either had mutual funds in the past before ETFs came out, which I don't really have any mutual funds anymore. Or I usually pick a couple stocks of companies that I really like. So I was playing Apple back when it was $50 before it did all of its splits. So right around the time the iPod came out. So I was in college at the time, and I was playing that stock pretty well. And a lot of times, what I'll do is find a stock that I consume or use or interact with, because it's usually a company I have a pretty good feel for, and then I'll dig into some of their fundamentals, and then I'll look to see what the trends are. What has it been doing for the last 3, 6, 9, and 12 months? And then a lot of times I'll wait. I'll kind of see what I'll make some, let's just call them paper trades, just on my own paper, and kind of see what's going on. And if I feel like I've got a good feel for it, a lot of times you can find some cycles that are going on.
Mm-hmm.
And that'll be maybe a little bit of trading, but for the most part, for me, I'm an investor. So I look for a longer term hold when I'm dealing with stocks.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. And when you're saying paper, you're talking about paper accounts like through TD, well, I guess Charles Schwab, where you can invest like the fake money.
Yep. You can invest fake money to kind of test it out. But, some of the things I wish I was a little bit longer on, like when I bought Apple, I bought $50,000 of Apple back when the iPad pod came out, before the iPhone came out, but it was money I had in between a real estate transaction. So I only had it for about 60 days. I was able to make a decent profit, like $20,000 off of it. But had I been able to hold that kind of money, it would have turned into millions of dollars. Mm-hmm. Yep. So you can't beat yourself up over trades. You take advantage of things you can do, and you never risk more than what you're willing to lose. And that's why I typically do more long-term trading, because it's not, your risk level is way lower. And I think ETFs are a way that a lot of people are looking at today versus mutual funds. You can get stuck in a mutual fund where it can take a few days to get out of it. And you may not get the best price action. But for me, I typically find a handful of stocks that I like to follow. And then I'll look at some of the index funds as well as ETFs. Right now, I'm not too heavy in stocks, though. I've been heavier in precious metals as of late.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. That's good. So one thing, so like when you had Apple, you have these blue chip stocks. These are like the stocks that are like, the gold standard of stocks. I mean, pretty much.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I mean, when you get like, and obviously, like, it's not. I mean, if you were investing in the 90s, I don't know when you bought Apple, but when you were investing in the 90s, you had the .com bubble where you had all these companies popping up. You had all these, companies that were going bust, pets.com, everything.
Oh, yeah.
So who knew that Amazon was going to be what Amazon is today, right? Who knew that Microsoft was going to be what Microsoft is today, and Apple and vice versa? Even though they've been around a little bit longer than most of those other companies that were just popping up. But, I think that, I mean, obviously in the resource sector, like me being in precious metals, I mean, physical gold is like my insurance for my
Mhm.
money, and my store value. But like when I'm going into like gold stocks, oil stocks, coal stocks, uranium, all those things, it's all cyclical. And
Oh, yeah.
so I'm not like, this channel is going to be talking about tech stocks at some point again. Like, like it's like natural resources. Like once this bull run hits and it tops and then it comes down crashing, I'm not going to be talking about buying natural resource stocks, right?
Yep.
It's
Yep.
all cyclical. And so, I had some people come on, comment, say, "Hey, is this all you talk about? It's natural resources." Like that's
It's all timing, I think. I'm in the tech sector, so I sell artificial intelligence software for my job,
Mhm.
and so I've been an entrepreneur half my career. The other half I've worked for a tech company, and a lot of the tech companies I worked for starting in 2011, we've been able to ride this great wave up where my stock just kept, jumping every year. And you're able to use that to make a little extra money, or you could hold on to it and make a lot of money. And the reality is that's kind of gone away now. Now I'm watching the stock.
Were you getting options? Were you getting options, or did y'all getting shares?
We were getting the shares. So one of the perks with working for a tech company is you get RSUs, restricted stock units every year. And what'll happen is when you get hired, they give you a stock package, and it usually takes anywhere from 3 to 5 years to vest all those shares. And then for me, I'm in a position where I get shares every year that come in the form of RSUs, and then I also get stock options. And so each of those have different vesting time periods that have to go through.
Mhm.
Um, and for the company I'm working for now, I've seen the stock basically go down by, I think it's about 80%. So that doesn't feel very good. And it's come up a little bit from that. Maybe it's only down 60 now. But um, a lot of people in the tech sector, we've been used to getting fat on stock for a long time, and that's changing. So you have companies like AWS and Google that pay a high percentage of their of the money they pay their employees is in stock. They're
Mhm.
having to reevaluate things and increase their bases because their stock isn't, doubling every year.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, that's I mean,
it's-
that's important. I mean, like, the and that's why, like, I really love the macro side of it, side of finance and economics and stuff, is because, like, obviously traders, they mostly look at charts, and like I'm more of a fundamentals guy. I look at macro and fundamentals, but traders will look at like the charts and assess like investor psychology based on like volume and all these different things, right? And they make short-term cash. Many of them do. Well, not everyone is profitable, but many of them, that's what they aim to do, right? And so like I think in the macro, I was telling, I had Gwen Preston on. I told her that I sold most of my portfolio back in late 2021, early 2022. I was mostly invested in energy and commodities, and then we had Russia Ukraine. So Russia Ukraine, so the energy stocks, gold went up quite a bit as well. But I ended up selling a lot of it because I knew that we were going to have a big drawdown in equity markets. And then we saw that in October of last year. And so I've been just rebuilding since then. But what changed in the macro was not only the geopolitics, but it was the Fed started raising interest rates, and they were raising them at the highest, I mean, the fastest rate that they've raised them in, I think, history. And the cost of borrowing was going up. They were doing quantitative tightening, selling assets off their balance sheet to suck liquidity out of the system. So like all those things I was looking at, I'm like, okay, the markets aren't gonna do really well because most of these stocks were pumped up off cheap printed money over the pandemic. I mean, well, since the global financial crisis, I mean, we started QE, quantitative easing, since then. Like Fed's been buying bonds. Their balance sheet has went up significantly since the global financial crisis. And so,
Well, even just from 2018, it's been so much of it's been held up by stock repurchases by the companies, stock buybacks, um, which I'm not I don't like that. I think that's gaming the system. I don't think it should be a legal practice personally. Um, but you've had a lot of that going on, and that's kind of artificially brought all those prices to where they were. And I did the same thing. I sold most of my stock portfolio in October, November of 2021.
mhm.
What I didn't do is jump back in at the beginning of this year, mostly because I just didn't have the time to deal with it. And I started moving myself more into physical commodities.
That was a nasty drawdown in December of last year, January this year.
It was ugly, guys.
It was very nasty.
Yeah.
See, we got some commenters on. Cito said, my bro works for Tesla. He's been playing the company option game. Ryan James said AMC for me. Hey Ryan, you must be on that Wall Street bets Reddit or
Yes.
something. Those people are still hyping those up. Like, and you may get a run here and there, but I
don't have the nerve for it.
yeah, I don't either. Because when it happened, that was a crazy thing. It was so crazy just what was happening during that time. But I remember me and my cousin, we were looking at GameStop. I was like, why is GameStop up? You know, and I didn't know what a short squeeze was at that time. And I said, I'm not touching this. This stock is way overvalued. I think it went up from like $3 to like $30 or something. And then it got squeezed even higher, went up to $140. So we could have hopped in if I would have knew what it was. But, you know, I just decided to stay out of it for the most part. I did make a little money off of it, but I wasn't die hard like the Wall Street Bets crew. Neophyte said, I'm still shook on Surfer's real estate trade and Apple pick when he was in college.
Yeah, so I'll tell you a couple of quick little things. So I'm pretty good at knowing when the market's going to go down and I get out in time. It's a little harder for me to understand when it's going to start picking up. So I look for the trends and I have to kind of figure out where it's going. But kind of some of my big picks I've made that I wish I could have held longer because I live in Southern California. California takes all my money. I wish I was able to stash away a lot of it. I just haven't been able to do quite as much as I want. And so a lot of times when I'm trading, not investing, but trading, and I can have these great things, it's for a shorter period of time. So sometimes I miss those windows. But I bought a bunch of Tesla, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and what was the other one? The other one was Shopify in 2018. And about 2 months later, we were buying a house here in California, and I was told I needed more down payment to qualify.
Mm-hmm.
So I ended up having to sell all of it. And I wish looking back, I would have found a different way, like a hard money loan from a family member or something,
Mm-hmm.
which I don't really recommend, guys. I kind of feel like that a little bit. But I was basically 3 months before all of those pumped and went really high. And that was when Tesla, I want to say Tesla was around $200, and I think Shopify was around like 180 or something like that.
Yep. And that's for the audience before the stock. That was before the stock splits because Tesla ran up from 200 to like 1,500 or something like that before they split the stock. So it was a lot higher than what it is now at that time. So yeah.
So I was like, honey, do you really want the house? Because I think these things are going to go up pretty soon. I didn't know it was going to go that fast and that high. But you know, one of the things I would give a little advice on too, I'm not a financial advisor, so I guess it's not advice, it's just a tip, is if you're trading, I think it's something you need to be prepared to take some hits on. When you're investing, I think you look at the fundamentals and you plan for the long run. You know, most of us are going to have 10, 20, 30 years to invest. And if you're going off the fundamentals, you've got a much better chance of things always continuing to go up. Now, right now it's a little different because we don't have the money machine on, but I don't see how they can ever turn it off really for much longer. I think it's going to happen again.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because there's, there's like the money stock, the money printer, but right now there's some companies out here that pay some really solid dividends.
Mhm.
I mean, you can get anywhere from 5 to 20% depending on your risk tolerance. I get 20% on like Echo Patrol. They're in Colombia Oil Company. But obviously you have the jurisdictional risk, so you have to invest quarterly. You can't put more money than you're willing to lose. So
Yeah.
yeah, so it's you can compound in that way. That's why I mentioned that. It's that's a way that you can compound. And so I'm just going to show this chart really quick. And so this is the Federal Reserve balance sheet that I was referring to earlier. And right now, the money printer is off, right? You can see when it's going down, that means the money printer's off. When it's going up, the money printer's on. So as you can see, I mean, we had the global GFC, global financial crisis, and they started quantitative easing, bought government debt, added to their balance sheet, and they had, I think, 3 rounds of quantitative easing, if I'm not mistaken, or 4 rounds or something.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So this may be Q2 right here. This big bump here. And then, it came down, and then, you had the pandemic here, and they just kept rising. And then they started cutting the balance sheet. They haven't made a lot of progress. I mean, it's still over 7 trillion, but it's at a all-time high. And so let's see if I click max. Max don't even, okay, max, it only goes back to 2002. So the money printer's off. So what's kind of making you bullish on commodities right now? Money's printers off. What are you looking for there?
Yeah. So here's my thought on it. I think we're in a situation where, as a society, our economy is based on needing to have inflation to some degree. I think that's one of the reasons you've seen the Fed pushing for a long time to get to 2%. They had to work hard to get to the 2%. We way overdid it with COVID stimulus. And that really put us over the top. The other problem you had is you had the Fed doing it at the same time as you had the federal government doing it. So you had the double whammy from the Treasury and from the Fed. But I think our economy is based on that now. When we don't have the printer on, everything's going to slow down, which is obviously what they're trying to do at the moment. But I think they're going to have to turn it back on. One of the things that I believe is that inflation is caused by printing too much money and having too much liquidity in the market. And so we still have a lot of money in the market. I don't live too far from Disneyland. And I went out there a couple times, about 3 times in the last few months with relatives that come down to visit from other states. And the place is packed. You have to book 3 or 4 days in advance to even go there. And no one looks like there's any kind of a recession going on. People are spending money like crazy. And so it tells me that there's still too much credit. It's too easy to get money. In 2008, when I would go to Disneyland, it was, half capacity. There just weren't a whole lot of people there, and no one was buying the food. They were bringing their own food with them. And I think Disney even had to change their policy to where they allowed people to bring their own food in. So when I look outside, I don't see a recession. I see people putting a lot of money on credit right now. And as long as there's a lot of credit out there, we're going to be able to kind of make it look like we're okay. But to my thoughts, I still think inflation's been very high. I don't like the CPI. I don't believe it's accurate. I think last year we were hitting into 18 to 20% inflation. I think this year we're probably sitting closer to like 6 to 7% inflation, even though we're showing CPIs in the mid to, kind of the mid 3s. And so for that reason, I don't think the Fed ever solved the problem of inflation yet. I think we're just masking it. I'm afraid that we're going to run into a period where they're going to start money printing again. And what you're going to see is inflation starts to tick up again. and there's in my history, in my past, the only way that I've seen the Fed start to do quantitative easing is two different reasons. One is because you have everything falling apart and they have to do it, which is not the good reason. Or the second reason is you have a strong economy and they can start to do that because they can throw some sorry, not a strong economy. You have an economy that's taking care of itself, that you can start to lower it down a little bit and it'll be okay. But I think we're going to run into a position here where we're going to start to see things getting tight. I come from a banking family as well, and right now you have a lot of regional banks that are on the edge of having, let's just call them bank runs, due to commercial-backed equities that are starting to come back. So, for those of you guys that aren't aware of it, about every 3 years,
real estate.
Yeah, real estate.
Yeah.
So it's like your office buildings. So being a tech guy, most of the people I know are no longer going into the office; they're working from home. And think of San Francisco, all those tech buildings. Half of them are vacant. There's just no one in them. And about every 3 years, they have to readjust the interest rate on the loans, and those are starting to basically double now because of where the interest rates are. So there's a chance we could see banks having some major issues. And it won't take much of a black swan type of event to tip it over. Do you plan everything for that? No, but I think it's something to be aware of and kind of, look at that. So that's one thing I look at right now from a macroeconomic standpoint. The other one is commodities. If we have inflation, I think commodities are going to continue to do really well with the inflation going forward. And then you've got the whole green movement that's kicking in. So I think that's pretty bullish for silver as well. There's a lot of silver in solar panels, batteries, EVs, things like that. Gold's going to be a little bit more on the whole inflation part of it in the banking side.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, there's you said quite a few interesting things there, especially with the commercial real estate. I mean, that's one bomb. Rick Rule called it a bomb. He didn't say it was ignited, but I mean, it may be ignited. Who knows? But it's sitting there, right? I mean, you have a lot of people that haven't went back to work full time. I mean, you still have remote jobs. Some people just, don't want to work right now. I mean, so you have unemployment ticking up a little bit, but a lot of these offices are vacant, and interest rates have gone up, having to refinance debt at higher interest rates. So that looks bad on a lot of fronts. And I was just going to show a couple of other charts. This is just like just in terms of I was showing the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. We just added, I think, 3 million barrels or something, but we've not 3 million barrels, but yeah, we've pretty much drained it a whole lot. I mean, almost half of it has went down, and this has to be refilled at higher oil prices. Unless we have a recession and the oil price declines more, we can probably refill it, a lot easier at a cheaper price. But obviously the money printer has to come on again. I mean, because like we have right now, we're in like this debt trap, so I'm just going to the US debt clock. We're in this debt trap to where, right now we're at a $1.75 trillion budget, budget deficit. National debt continues to increase. You have a cost of living adjustments for Social Security, Medicaid. You still have defense spending, which right now many countries are focused on energy security because you have all these dynamics with the BRICS and Russia, Ukraine, and all these things, right? And so, like to cut the spending we have now, and this isn't even including the interest expense on the debt. Like that's just a whole nother.
I couldn't run my house this way.
And so like, it's like either I know they're not going to cut defense, right? I mean, and right now in the middle of election, they're not going to cut Social Security or Medicaid.
No way.
The money printer has to come on.
Well, one of the things that concerns me too is the number that's like savings per family seems pretty low.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Where's that one at?
It's in the kind of in the middle of the screen right now.
Savings per family.
So I heard that I think it's like I'm going to get this number wrong.
Oh yeah, right here.
It was something like 60% of the country has less than $1,000 in the bank. So that's getting skewed because the average is higher, but still, if there's a massive, if someone gets laid off, 11,000 is not going to last super long today.
No, it's not. You're gonna have to get out there and I was talking to some friends in the barbershop. We're gonna have to shovel some ditches or something. We gonna have to make it work, however, especially if that happens. Because the capital's drying up, and so at some point I think the Fed is going to have to reverse course and lower interest rates, which is going to be bullish for commodities. And so this is the climate goals for nations. I don't even know what's the population of these nations here, but most of them are running from 2030 through 20. I think China may be 2060.
Where are we sitting on that?
Let's see. Yeah, past China. They don't even got China on here. That's weird. I think China was 2060 last I saw. United States, Ukraine, US 2050.
Okay.
So and like me, like when I was at Rick Rule Symposium, and Robert Friedland was there. He started Ivanhoe Mines, and he just built not the first, but a copper mine over in Africa. And it took him 30 years, I think, no, it's 20 to 25 years to get that mine going. And it took multiple billions of dollars. I think it was like over, I don't know if it's 5 billion or something of that nature. So when we're talking about like transition to, commodities and transition to like green energy and all these different things, like if we have government in the way of us being able to produce more, because for the mine to take 20 years, I mean, imagine like you need all this copper, to electrify, and there's not very many copper mines out there, and it takes this long to get it going, and it takes this amount of money to get it going, and so it's just inevitable. I think it's just inevitable that these stocks, these commodities start ripping higher. Obviously it's timing, and right now we're kind of in this no man's land with recession on the horizon, and base metals are going to get clobbered. I mean, when you look at copper or some of these other ones that get harmed during recession, but at some point it's going to turn back around.
Well, the other thing you're seeing is the globalization starting to become like multipolar.
Yeah.
And so we're seeing a lot of shifting, like even Apple starting to move where they produce iPhones, so there's a supply chain still not totally healthy, and we're moving things around to different places. And so much of the resources come out of China and Russia, which are two countries that we're not really wanting to do a whole lot with, right? We're trying to expand out of there. We have a lot of resources here, but to your point, we haven't really built the infrastructure for it.
Yeah.
Take a long time. And if it takes 25 years, and you could have squeezes from that too. You could have some crazy price things happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's real. I mean, especially like we ain't even talking about water infrastructure. Like that's like from the 1910s and all of that. And then the issue with the Colorado River and Arizona. I mean, Vegas and Phoenix were not cities that were heavily populated back in the 30s when they did that study that they're currently running on. And so yeah, it's going to take a lot of investment. I'm just going to jump to the comments really quick. Let's see, we had Neophyte. I remember having 1,000 in hand, clearance free with no worries, and laughing at Bitcoin and its launch. That memory haunts me. LOL. Yeah, I'm sure it does haunt you, but at the same time, a lot of people lost their Bitcoin in that time. Like if you weren't tech savvy and knew how to store your codes or your keys and all of that, like many people got wiped out. Some people had it on hard drives or computers or platforms. I mean, there was a couple of platforms that wiped out quite a few people. And so,
It wasn't easy to acquire it either. It was, you almost had to get like some kind of a peer-to-peer transaction just to pick the stuff up.
hmm yeah, and so like even to mine it, like I mean, you didn't have to. You have the supercomputers now. I mean, you could mine it on a HP computer, but like you have to know how to plug into that matrix and all of that. So yeah, that I mean, yeah, it hurts seeing the price and everything, but the question is, would the story have been, man, I lost $1,000 worth of Bitcoin. I had, this amount and it was on this platform, it got hacked, or I lost my computer, or whatnot. And so that could have been the other side of the story if you'd have made it past that part. I was so close to jumping in with the $1,000, but didn't.
The other question is, would you have held it when it went up to 20 and it went all the way down to 3,000?
Yeah, that's that's a good question, because I mean it's only few people that, I mean, you have some whales that I think held it for quite a long time, but even for me, like when it went down to 3,000 back in 2020, I think I jumped in and I took the short term profits.
Yeah.
It's like we were talking about this earlier, which I want to ask you this question too. We were going through this video of Ti, hip hop artist, and his son getting into altercation, and his son saying he had hardships growing up. His dad's a millionaire, and blah blah blah. But the question was, should you give your kids the life you never had? And so I think that
Yeah.
it's the thing that like even tied to this question, sometimes we have these assets that we don't even know the full value of them. I mean, you mentioned withholding Apple, right?
Yep.
Me having Bitcoin at 3,000, like I took the short-term gain because I didn't know what I had in my hand. And so like I relate that question to that particular situation with assets, is because like sometimes our kids, I don't know if you have any kids or whatnot, but our kids can take things for granted, like, hey, this, say like I pass away or something and they go trade the LeBron James rookie card I got. Like, oh, I'm gonna take this.
$5 at a pawn shop.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it's like, do you know the value of what you have in your hand? And so yeah, so that's important.
Well, I think it's a good question. I've got 3 kids. My youngest are 17.
Mhm.
And one of the things I don't know, philosophy my wife and I have is we try to keep it fairly simple. So we don't have fancy cars. We could, but we don't. But our cars are paid off. I don't have any loans on them.
Mhm.
And we'll drive those things until they're over 100,000 miles.
Yeah.
And the other thing we try to do is we try to do more experiences with our kids, to take them places, to enjoy things. It's also hard to put a price. They don't really have any clue how expensive things are. Sometimes I'll try to explain it to them, but for the most part, we try not to give too much to our kids to where they get spoiled. It's a little harder in this society right now because things just come easy, and there's a lot of school teachers are doing things on social media, so your kids have to have a phone. School's now done with a computer, so they have to have a computer. So, there's certain things you can't really wait for them to have until later. But my first cell phone I got when I was in college. And the life I lived without a cell phone is so different than the life my kids live. We had to go around to 4 or 5 homes in high school to try to figure out where the party was.
Mm-hmm.
Now they look on Snapchat and they can see where everybody is.
Yeah.
But one thing I will say is it's usually in the third generation that money's lost. And so you usually have someone that works really hard that makes it. The next generation gets it too easy and they're not sure how to hold on to it. The third generation never got taught by the first generation or the second generation on how to create it. And it usually slips through the hands.
Mm-hmm.
So if any of you do make it big, or you do have a substantial amount of money you could be leaving to your kids, I think it's important to help them get a start in life. But I think it's also important to push that off as long as you can to help them get out on their own and build their own career. And then I think it's also important to help them understand how to manage money and what the value of things are.
Yep, definitely. Yeah, I'm gonna actually. There's a few free books on. I don't think he's charging yet. Let's see. I don't think he charges. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and share this site. This is Ted Oakley. He's with Oxbow Advisors. I like watching him speak and everything. He manages quite a few funds, but he has these free books that are, I believe these are all free. I think I got mine for free. So he has Your Money Mentality, The Psychology of Staying Rich. This was a really great one that was like probably about 75 pages or so. So you can read it in the airplane trip pretty easy. Rich Kids and the Failure of Traditional Estate Planning and Broke Kids. So
There you go.
so he goes through pretty in depth on these things. $20 million in broke, So I think these are some good sources for the audience. I'll drop the link below. But the psychology of staying rich, like he even talks about, how he saw, families, kids would be left with these businesses, and these businesses would be 250 million, and he saw kids just blow through it, blow the whole 250 million.
Well, think about like lottery winners. How many lottery winners turn out to be super successful? Most of them, it's like a train wreck. Their life, their personal life, the money's gone in 3 years. So, even if you did buy a bunch of Bitcoin and you turned into a 100 millionaire, if you don't have the discipline to read things like this and to study and to learn and to understand how to hold on to it, you could have lost all of it by now. Or you wouldn't know how to basically manage it. And the more money you come into, the more people try to get you to do different things. And the more that people come out of the woodworks. So, I think it's important to get the education around this stuff, but I think it's also important to, like you're saying, understand that value. Like what do I really have in my hands, and what could it do? And when it does go up, what's your game plan? Money just usually makes you more of whoever you are. So if you're a great person and you're a charitable person, you're usually more charitable. But if you're a greedy, stingy person, you're usually a lot more stingy.
Yeah.
So that's kind of been my experience with stuff. So, honestly, I'm in my late 40s now, and I think it's taken me this long to understand how to really manage money and to have the respect for it.
Mm-hmm.
And so the things that I'm doing now versus what I was doing in my 20s are completely different.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what the, like having respect for money, like that's what I was telling, the audience earlier, with my son, like he doesn't understand the hard work that goes into, making a dollar, or goes into, accumulating some of the wealth. Like he just sees it as something you can just spend. And so, yeah, I'm working with him through that. He's 14. He lives in two different households. They tend to splurge over there. We're more conservative, invest in your stock accounts and things like that. But so he does have this competing messages, but it's like he doesn't understand the value or the hard work behind it. And so that's why, I used to have the mindset like, oh, I want my kids to have a better life, which I do want them to have a better life, but then you have to define better life.
Yeah.
Learning, knowing things that I wish that I would have known or my parents would have known. That's one thing. How can you know things so you don't make the same mistakes that your parents or your grandparents or your great great grandparents made?
Yep.
Knowing the value of the sacrifices that your ancestors, that your folks have made so that you can be where you are today, even if you're not, even if you're not in a wealthy situation, you're still in a more free situation than people that migrated from other areas during the Great Depression, or when you're thinking about stuff like that, you're like, what was my family doing during the Great Depression? Like, how many sacrifices, how many jobs lost, like, all of that, right? And so just thinking about like, okay, now I'm in a way better position. I have a lot more freedom, a lot more access. I can access how to trade, how to invest. I can watch a show like this and get the information, that this information was not widely available to people. You can buy a book on Amazon and just have it shipped to you the next day. You go to school
It's like
online.
magic these days.
You can go to school online in the comfort of your home.
Yeah.
Like it's like so more accessible for many people. And so I think if you don't understand the value of the situation you're in now, it's going to be hard for you. And so that's why I think that I want the kids to have a better life than me. But when I think of better life, it has a lot more components than just the having more money than I had.
I think so too. I've also had the privilege of going to Guatemala, seeing some of the cool Mayan ruins down there, but also going to some small villages that didn't have any vehicles. So my dad spent a couple years there when he was in his 20s, and he was able to send an ambulance down to this town. And so we were checking out this town and everything. And they only have one electrical wire going to their house. There's no running water. There's no running plumbing. So they have an outhouse. And the people were the happiest people I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They didn't have any TV. They weren't watching sports. They were out playing soccer. And they didn't have all the, creature comforts. They didn't have cars. A few of them had bikes. And so I think a lot of it is, it's the mindset of what do you want to have with a better life? Hopefully it's happiness. Hopefully it's experiencing things. And that's what I'm trying to set up with my kids. But I mean, there are days where I go, okay, these guys are too spoiled. Things are too easy for them.
Yeah.
And so so you do the best you can, but at the same time, I try to take phones away because behavior or whatever else. And then they're like, well, I have to do this for my teacher, or I have to do this. And I'm like constantly locking, unlocking devices and all this stuff. But at the end of the day, so much of it comes down to yourself, and it's trying to teach your kids as much as you can. But I don't know. I guess what I would say is, hopefully you can teach them the importance of money, that it's a tool and how to best use it.
Yeah.
And I think one of the comments in here was about the first job. I think it's important for them to go get a job to see what it's like, and then for them to pay expenses so they can see how they earn that first $100, and how $80 of it goes real fast to things like gas or eating out.
Mm-hmm.
And then they start to gain respect for how much something cost at a store. Maybe I don't want to spend all of it on that.
Yep, exactly. And the dollar ain't going as far as it was in 2019. I mean, even in 2020, things were quite cheap. at that point. But you know, now I mean, if you go get a job and you're working at a fast food restaurant and stuff, like, you know, you can easily spend 30, 40 bucks just eating out. Like,
Oh yeah.
you know, it's that day of wages is gone, you know. So I think that you know, it's definitely some things to learn. Neophyte said his job will teach him about earning a paycheck. Yes, he came to me. He came to me about working over the summer. Like, hey, Dad, I want to make some money. Uh, it didn't really work out, but I mean, at least he had the idea. You know.
That's a good idea. Like both of my daughters have had a job, and kind of off and on. I don't want it affecting their schoolwork, but at the same time, I think it's good for them to do it. And I've even tried to help them do a side business on Amazon selling. We made a product and sold it. It was like a clothing fashion tape, if you guys know what that is. But and it went well for a while, and they kind of got bored of doing it. So, you know, I think the other thing is you got to find a passion for what you're doing. So one of my daughters now is working at a place that sells like hair products. So she's all about hair stuff. So I think it's fun to find something you like to do. But hey, here in California, pretty soon any fast food restaurant job's paying $20 an hour. So you can't beat that either for a first job. I mean, I didn't get $20 my first job.
Yeah. It's is she into sales or whatnot? Is she like, I mean, she's into the products, like, is she selling the products, or she's
Yeah, so she it's retail sales. So she'll be showing people the different products and trying to sell them and upsell them on it. And she gets paid basically a base, and then there's, depending on what product she sells, she can make some extra money on it, kind of a commission.
yeah, it's like it's not, is that Mary Kay's or something like that?
Hers is it's a retail store.
Okay,
But,
hers in the store, yeah.
but I mean, dude, I've dabbled in so many things. My wife and I, we've done probably 5 MLMs in the past
Mhm.
on the side, and we've always made money from them. I know most people don't make money from those things, but anytime we've done it, we've always had a mentor in that company and a friend that has been doing really well with it. So we figured out how to work those. We're not doing one now because I just don't have the time to do it. But
You try Amway?
we did New Skin
New Skin.
and doTERRA are 2 that we've done. So my wife still collects a passive check on doTERRA every month. She gets a check. She doesn't do anything about it.
That's good. That's nice.
That is great passive income, but it isn't easy to build up. It's something that takes a lot more work than people realize.
Yeah. People are skeptical, like of like, it's weird. Like these online companies can like easily get you like, oh yeah, you get two weeks free trial, a
Yep.
month free trial. Just put in your payment information. We'll notify you. We'll send it to your email. It's probably gonna go to spam. You know, and then you forget, and that joint's being charged to your credit card. You don't even know it's going to your credit card because you're spending more stuff on your credit card, things of that nature. And so like but to have someone, like, to sit in person with someone and have them like, fill out a form and like, hey, sign up here. Yep, this is what you're paying, blah, blah, blah. It's like, it seems like a lot more challenging.
It totally can be. When we did the New Skin business, my wife started it and she got sick about 3 months into it, really bad. And so it turned into me, and the stuff she was doing was like personal care. I'm like, I'm not giving ladies facials. Like, I just don't feel comfortable doing this stuff.
Mhm.
And so it kind of petered out, but she did really well her first 3 to 4 to 5 months. We both have master's degrees. So the fact that people with master's degrees were doing this was like blowing people's minds. But we were making crazy good money doing it.
Mhm.
And it came down to sitting down with people, and this product they had basically gave people a facelift in 10 minutes. And if you can visibly see half of your face be lifted up in 10 minutes, the money's coming out.
Yeah.
I mean, they're just like, how do I buy this thing fast enough? And we went after building business people. So we built up a lot of business people and built an organization very quickly in a team. The problem is we didn't build enough customers behind it. So there's good ways to do those things. There's bad ways to do it. But for me, I always like to have a couple side hustles going. And I like to try to get as many income streams as I can. I find that always helps in case you get laid off, or it allows you to have extra spending money or extra investing money. You never know what's going to be hot. Like, I feel like I got into precious metals a little early, but I'd rather be early than too late when I can't afford any of it. But don't go crazy when you get into something new, right? Like, kind of figure it out a little bit, and still stay diversified. I think it's still very important to have cash on hand now. And I think it's important to have emergency funds so that you don't get in a pinch and you have to sell stuff at rock bottom prices, or to whoever's willing to just take it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of value in what you said. Multiple streams. I mean, I have my I'm just renewing my real estate license because I let it expire. I had taken some time off, and then I just finished my 90-hour renewal course, and then now I just got to pay the fine to get it back, but before it's canceled. And so that was one thing that I added for stream income during the pandemic. Honestly, I was double dipping, man. I was working from home, and then I picked up Instacart and then DoorDash, and I was making an extra good $1,000 a week. Then me and my wife were doing it, taking turns, and and stuff. And so like we were making some money. We were able to get ahead. So we used to do that as a side hustle. Then obviously the YouTube business, that's like one thing that I'm really trying to build, and you're trying to build as well on your end. But like many people make a lot of passive income doing this, especially if you build a solid viewer base and provide a lot of value. And so yeah, it's definitely some side hustles that we have to have, because you just don't know. So Homestead said, boom, exactly. How is a better life defined? That's the big question, and it's subjective. Just depends on the person. I mean, just like you mentioned, going to Guatemala, the people were happy. Like they weren't worried about, consumer goods as much or whatnot. They had a community of people they felt loved and cared for. They had joyful experiences. All of that. And so that was the better life for them. And so it just kind of depends. And there's different aspects. I mean, you have health, you have, wealth, riches, you have your mental health, community that you're connected with. All of those things like play a part into having a better life. I mean, so yeah.
I think so too. And I think the other part of the better life is it does make a difference on how you define it. So, one thing is there's another comment that just barely came up about being hungry, basically. When you get too comfortable, that's when things start to fall apart. You usually get lazy. You usually get to the point where you're not watching things. And that's where your investments can fall down. That's where your health can fall down, a lot of other stuff. So, part of that better life is really, I think it's being able to do things that you want to do, and things that you need to do. But I think it's within reason. I think we've all got to have some challenges in life, or life becomes boring.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the other part of it is, for me, I don't necessarily want my kids to have a better life than I've had. I want them to have a better experiences. And I brought that up a few different times, but I don't define it as material things. Other people may define it as material things. Hey, I never had a Porsche. My parents never had a Porsche. I want to have a Porsche someday. Or it might be, I want to live in that nice house on a hill. Or it may be, I want to go to that fancy university. And I'm finding out more and more, it doesn't make that big of a difference unless you go to maybe one of the top 5 universities in your given field. You can go to a university that doesn't cost as much, and it's not going to be as big of a burden on you, and you can still get a great education out of it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I was looking at Homestead's comment. We were in Amway a long ago. It's a good thing. I kind of miss it. Just the effort to prove it constantly. Too much bad press. Yeah, I've been approached by Amway multiple times. I have quite a few friends that have done it, and quite a few friends that have stopped doing it. I don't have an opinion one way or another. My only issue with some of those companies, because I've been approached by the coffee, sell instant coffee, uh, Amway. I've had multiple. I mean, life insurance. Transamerica, Prime America,
Yep.
which I think Patrick Bet David, he built a really big business off of Trans. I think it was Transamerica Insurance or something like that. So, and that was how he got started. But I just think that ultimately my issue with it is like, even when like some of the people that I have these discussions with that sell the products, they kind of they don't get upset with me, but I kind of challenge them in a way because they'll come at you like this is the best thing since sliced bread, and I'm like, okay, well, first of all, like there's multiple ways up the mountain, right?
There always is.
And it is not me. This isn't for me to sell this product, go find these customers. And yeah, it's a way to build passive income for sure, and I'm sure there's some perks to it, but you have to find out what works for you. I mean, like some people are sitting behind the computer screen making thousands of dollars a month, or whether that's on being a content creator or drop shipping or trading, all those different things. So there's just multiple ways that you can build it. And I learned that because my cousin, he's a trader. For me, it wasn't like I could trade sometimes, but it just didn't work out for me. Like I didn't have the patience. I didn't have the anytime I saw a big drawdown in my options premiums, like I got scared, shook me out. Uh, so like I just didn't have the tolerance for it. And so at some point I'll build a account for trading specifically, but it's going to be money that like, okay, I'm willing to lose this money, but right now I'm building my long-term portfolio. But yeah, so it's just there's multiple ways up the mountain, and I just don't like when people try to pin you in the corner like this is the way, and it's like nah, this is more ways.
Yeah, well, at that point you're dealing with the wrong people in that stuff too. My experience with New Skin is I had an opportunity to work with one of the top sellers for New Skin, and we were able to mentor with him, and that can be a huge difference. He didn't care if we did it or not. He just said, hey, if you're going to do it, you need to go all the way in with it. And I'm going to teach you how to do it. And so we were able to learn from him, but his style was completely different than another one of their big sellers. And so, you kind of learn over time those different things. But if anybody's pressuring you into things, I definitely would, think hard about that.
Yeah, for sure. Neophyte said, can you talk about identifying monster businesses, e.g. from my previous comments? You said e.g. I think you mentioned a couple of stocks before, and so I was trying to figure out. You mentioned Amazon.
Yeah. So how do I pick them? Honestly, it's by doing a crazy amount of research. So a lot of you guys are probably spending a lot of time watching sports. You're probably spending a lot of time watching TV shows, going to movies or watching movies. I spend a ton of time researching. So when I'm, everybody that you've talked about having on your show in the past, or at least, having clips on and everything, those are the people I study. I'm listening to a lot of their videos. Unfortunately, getting a YouTube channel started, I don't have as much time to do all the research as I want to. And my channel's not about that research, so it's moving me away from that a little bit. But I research the heck out of everything, and what I mean by that is I'm I'm looking to see what's happening in the news. What are they coming out with? How are innovation things happening? I moved off of PCs to Macs in 98, 98, 99, and started buying them, and I was using them, and I could see that Apple was doing things differently than anybody else was. And when they came out with the iPod, it wasn't brand new. You guys, everybody already had these MP3 players everywhere, but everybody wanted an Apple one. And the Apple one didn't even hold as many songs. My first iPod, and I wish I would have held on to it because it would be a museum piece now, only played 250 songs. But it played them much easier, and it was much easier to load them on than any other device that was out there at the time. And when I saw that, that's when I decided, okay, Apple's worth putting some money into. But I was watching its trading cycle, and if you could play it every 2 to 3 weeks, it would go up and down. And it had a consistent cycle going for about 6 or 7 months there when I was playing with it. And so I didn't have to become a big chartist to see that there was cycles going up and down, but you do get burned every once in a while. I bought Bitcoin at 17,000 earlier this year, and I sold it at 22,000 thinking that I could start playing some of the trades. It didn't go back down. It's got all the way up to 38,000 now. And now I'm going, shoot, I should hold on to my Bitcoin.
I had the same thing happen.
We've got that. But for me, it's trends. If you guys look at trends your friend. Doing a lot of research can help. So, I still like I'm a LA Dodgers fan. I like to watch the Dodgers playing baseball. I like to go to the games. But a lot of it comes down to how are you spending your free time? If you're spending your free time in leisure all the time, maybe rethink about doing a little bit more into some research. And then I'm a techie guy. So I can tell you when good tech's coming up. I got started with Amazon back in 2007, selling a product on there that became a #1 product in its category. And we sold that off in 2021. And, did pretty well with it. It's my best investment. I want to say it was somewhere around 27,000%, something like that. It was like insane. I put a very little bit of money into it, and I got a lot of money out of it. But it took hard work, and I wish I would have put more time and research into Amazon itself and invested more in that company, because that's really exploded too. But you're going to win some, you're going to lose some. But as far as finding the big trends or what's the next big company, it's not Apple. Apple's already there. It's not Starbucks. They're already there. It's not Google. They're already there. You got to think about when like Facebook had its IPO. That was the time to get into Facebook. When Visa had its IPO, that was the time to get into Visa. Same with UPS. Those are all some good companies.
You thinking more like, are you thinking more small caps, mid caps? Like what kind of market cap are you looking for?
Yeah, for me, I usually don't go too much into the small caps. I usually go more in the mid caps to large caps. But for me, I look to.
Like Apple's what, 2 trillion? It had like a 2
it's
trillion.
massive now. Yeah, it's huge. So I'm not saying Apple's not a good investment. What I'm saying is you're not going to get like a 20x return on Apple right now. And here's the thing, though, when you talk about like investments, I looked at the Motley Fool's program for a little while, and a lot of the ads that they throw out talk about if you put $1,000 at this date into this company, you would have this much money today. And that was one of the recommendations. So a lot of this comes down to putting some money into it and just leaving it there. And so looking back, if I were to give you guys advice, I didn't necessarily have to take all that money out of Apple. I was trading, and I've learned that I'm not a good trader. It's not my thing. I could have probably kept $500 to $1,000 in there when I bought it back in 2005. And the next year the iPhone came out, and that $1,000, I don't know what it would be worth today, but it would have been worth multiples above that. And probably could have bought a nice car with that, where everything went with Apple. So if you're able to do that with a handful of companies that you've done research on and you feel like they've got a good shot, then hold on to it for 10 plus years. I think you've got a good chance of having some of your investments do pretty well.
Yeah. And it's something like you have to, because obviously when you have big run-ups, like you have to assess like, okay, take some profit off the table. Some people take their initial investment off the table.
Yeah,
Like, okay, my initial
I
money,
would say to that for sure.
some people may take a little more than that. And you mentioned Bitcoin, which I was buying Bitcoin. I think it went down to what, 16,000, 15,000, something like
Yeah,
maybe
15.
15 or
High
14. Yeah, and so I was buying it then, and then it popped to 25. I started selling most of it. I sold most of it, and then now it's at 38. But I've also been looking into the altcoins because I know that when the FOMO hits, those things are going to rip. Like, and so, and those
They
things are a
will,
lot
yeah,
cheaper.
for
They're
sure.
a lot cheaper than where they were, a couple years ago. And so I've been looking there, like, okay, there's still these are still, they usually lag behind Bitcoin. And then, coming up next year, I mean, we have the halving cycle, we have BlackRock ETF. There's multiple companies that Fidelity put in for a Bitcoin ETF.
Yeah, there's like a dozen out there.
Yeah, Van Eck, like you have all these different companies that put in for them. And then you have, if the Fed pivots, so, well, the Fed's already kind of pivoted. Well, they paused, but the Fed pivots and starts reducing interest rates and printing again. Um, there's a lot of potential there. So that's kind of like where I'm looking, but many of those aren't long-term holds. Like I would love to get, thousands of percent on the altcoin and then just throw it into Bitcoin or gold,
So, so that's the other thing I'll tell you guys. The channel I've got is about. I could have done anything. Well, I shouldn't say that. I could have done a lot of things in the investing world, and I ended up settling on gold and silver investing, stacking, mainly because it was something new that I did, and it was something that I've been involved in the last couple of years. I have way more experience on real estate. I have way more experience in the stock market. I've got about the same amount of experience doing crypto, but for whatever reason, I found a good community of people, and that's kind of where I've started my channel off. It's very nichey. At some point, I may expand that because it's a harder genre to grow a channel very quickly in. And I think I've got just about the fastest growing one, at least from the metrics I'm looking at. But the reason I'm doing it is I feel like I want to give back. I feel like I should be giving back to the community, and it's also a way for me to, to have fun and build another income stream. But one of the things I'd recommend is, as you guys are making profits, set a goal of selling some of those profits and taking your initial investment away. I do think that's a great idea. So if you put $1,000 in and it goes up to, say, $4,000, get your $1,000 out, and now go put that into something less risky. And then I'm a big proponent of paying yourself back first and going and having some fun and getting something that you've wanted that you haven't been able to get. Don't go crazy. And then you can leave the rest of the money in there and have it keep investing and turning it. But I'd look at things like dividend stocks that are safer. I would look at things like gold and silver is a thing that I'm looking at now. And so one of the things I'm hoping to do is bridge into some of the crypto friends that I know. I've already started doing this, and as they're making money, said, why don't you put a little bit of it in gold? It's a pretty safe asset that you can hold on to. And so the one thing I'll say is, don't get fixated on one thing so much that you have blinders on, and it can only be Bitcoin, and that's the only investment you can ever make, or it can only be gold or silver, and that's the only investment you can make. Each of these things are going to hit at different times, and they're going to go up and down at different times. And so if you only have one, you're only going to get a wave every once in a while. And that's why I have the name of Surfer, is I want to help people ride the next commodities wave that's coming in here. And I think it's going to be huge over the next decade.
Yeah, definitely. So I just want to touch on a couple comments, and we can wrap up, and then I still gotta come on your show at some point. We'll just probably discuss something kind of late. So Cito said, is Surfer in the bonds? What's his outlook on the bond market in the next 5 to 10 years as we prepare for a commodity decade? Are you willing to lock your money away for 20 to 30 years into a treasury bond?
I'm going to tell you right now. I have a comment about bonds on Instagram that now has, I think it's close to 2,000 likes, and it wasn't my comment. I said it's the quickest way to go broke and bankrupt right now. And it's been very controversial that I put that comment out there, and it's led to like maybe 30 replies, and then half of my replies have been getting banned. So,
Yeah.
Here's what I'll tell you guys about my feeling on bonds. I've been waiting for a very long time for the interest rate to go high enough that I could get into bonds and that I could have, a real savings account that made money. The problem is you're not getting interest rates that are really above the inflation rate yet. So you're still better off having a 5% return right now than having no return. However, I don't think they're gonna stay there very long. I think what we're gonna see is, the Fed have to lower interest rates because the economy breaks, or an element of the economy breaks, or the banks break. And when they start printing money again, I don't want my money to be tied up in the bonds. I won't be able to sell them, especially if inflation takes off again. So for me, I think there's still enough of a risk of inflation, and I think there's enough of a risk of us having some kind of a financial black swan, that I'm not putting my money into long-term bonds. Now, if you like bonds, I would suggest looking at the shorter term ones and sticking with that, even though we could have interest rates get lowered again, and when you go to re-put your money in there, you'll have a lower rate. I just think I think the world is too uncertain to go for a 10-year bond or anything higher than that.
Yeah, I'm just going to share a chart of the TLT because investors got wrecked.
But I did look at it, guys. I was about to put a ton of money in 2021 into it.
We'll look at the TLT really quick. All right, this is bonds. We are in a bond bear.
Yeah, look at that. That does not look good.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously ran up 2020. People were liquidating. People ran into bonds. That's usually the safe haven. I mean, it got up to close to 180, and then now it's trading at $92. So I mean, you would have gotten wrecked, just trying to invest long term in this, and then you're locking your money away at what? Let's go to the.
Well, this is the other issue. This is another big systemic problem the banks have, just so you guys are aware of. They have to have reserves of about 10%. So for every dollar you take into the bank, they lend out 90 cents and they keep $10. And I think that's even gotten smaller now, but they can put some of that into bonds. And right now, those bonds have lost the value, as you can see from that chart. And so they can't sell bonds to come up with more cash if they have to. That's why the real estate thing is really something to watch. If you start hearing about a lot of commercial real estate going back to banks, that's a first sign that there could be some big problems there.
All right, so 20 year, you can get up to 4.75%, 30 year. But you can also do this on the treasury bills. I mean, obviously, the people normally go into bonds. It's like, okay, inflation's going down below 2%. Okay, I can lock in at 4.75%. There's still a lot of uncertainties with inflation. Inflation does not go in a straight line up. You can look at charts back in the 40s when we were in World War II, where inflation would spike, come down, spike again, come down. Same thing in the 70s, right? And so, I think that, the risk is still there. So, and then you're locking your money away for, 30 years, 20, 30 years. So the real inflation rate could be a lot higher than that. So I'm mostly doing T-bills, which, you can lock at, over 5%. And so they don't have the interest on it right now.
I've got relatives that have been doing the I bonds as well. Those have been pretty good. You are limited to how much you can put in them.
Mm-hmm. The I bonds.
Yep.
Yeah, I haven't checked those out yet.
But yeah, you can put into $10,000 per person.
The savings bonds, I bonds. There we go. Yep. So so that's, I mean, my thing is like I'm not gonna lock my money away that long. I need to be liquid. So what I buy is the treasury bills, and then I also buy like the the ETFs.
Mm.
So I keep the ETFs in my portfolio. So like for example, bill. This is a 1 to 3 month T bill. You'll get paid, I think, what, 4%, um, a little over 4%, but you're highly liquid. So I mean, if you look at the chart, I mean, what the chart, you know, it's not doing much. It's hovering in this range, right? So it protects you from these big drawdowns in the market. It helps you have liquidity when if there is a big drawdown in the market, and then you're also getting, you know, 4.25%. So that's kind of how I'm playing the
I
bond.
think that's another good way to go. But for me, it's the duration. I think you want a short duration right now.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And then I'm just jumping over to Neophyte. He was talking about the real life investment of
Yeah.
actually buying a product. So he said, forget all the research, just your experience is enough with the product to say, I'm going heavy in the beginning, letting it bloom. Buffett does that. Well, Buffett does a lot of research, man. Like
He doesn't
Buffett,
jump into things.
like he, and you know, because like for example, you know, like Buffett's not investing in Coke if he doesn't look at Coke's balance sheet. If he
Yeah.
doesn't look at Coke's profits that they bring in, and if he doesn't look at you know, I think other stocks like McDonald's, Bank of America, Apple, you know, all of those, like he's looking at the financials, but he also goes and buys the products of the companies that he invests in. I don't, I think he probably finds good value in them first, and then probably, you know, I mean, you see like the buying of the products and such, but he's doing the research. I mean, because I wouldn't, there's products I like that I probably would not invest in the company. Like I use Hertz rental cars. You know, I've used them before. Like I'm not going to buy Hertz. They just went bankrupt 2 years ago. So you know, like it's one of those things. I mean, Costco, I shop at Costco, but Costco stock is still highly elevated. Like I'm not gonna buy Costco stock, you know. So it's you have to be able to look at the financials of what you're getting into, you know, because even
I,
though you like the product, that doesn't mean that the company's profitable or not about to go bankrupt or anything like that.
I agree. And when I was looking at Apple guys, the iPhone didn't come out yet. Apple was not like a guaranteed success when they had the iPod come out. They had just taken, I think it was $100 million from Microsoft to to stay in survival mode, and they were just starting to sell their laptops again, and you know things were working for them. But um, had I left all my money in Apple, that was still a pretty good gamble that it was going to work out. You know, they were not um, ripping and roaring until until maybe about a year after the iPhone came out did things really start to turn around. But I do think it's good to look at companies that you like the products of, and I think that's a good place to start. But then I think you got to do the research too,
Yeah.
especially if it's an investment.
The first time you shopped at Costco, first time you saw Starbucks. Yeah, I mean it takes which I'm hoping, it sounds like we're probably not getting to your question. You may have to redo the question, rephrase the question in the chat if we're not touching on it. But you know, like there's products, for example, that I use that I didn't even know had um a stock, like Twilio, for example.
Mm.
You know, I use the Authenticator app to get into my Coinbase, my Swan Bitcoin, all these things. You know, I've been using it for a while, and then I learned about Twilio, and I'm like, you know, I'm looking at their services and stuff. I'm like, hey, I actually use their products already. You know, so like that's like one example. So sometimes I don't know I'm even using a company that's publicly traded. Um, Let's see. He said like Dutch Bros right now is popping. Are you talking about like literally? Or are you talking about the stock? Is there a Dutch Bros? That's a Dutch Bros stock. Let's see. I know the parking lot be full, but are you saying like
Yeah, part of the situation though too is if you're trying to get some great gains, depends on how much it's already popping to. That's part of the research, right? You got to look at PE ratios relative to other similar companies too.
let's see, I'm just looking at Dutch Bros stock. So you're talking about from the bottom here and well, yeah, from $23 to $29. Is that what you're talking about popping? Or are you talking about you're not talking about the long term trend? Because I mean it IPO'd,
Hmm.
you know, and popped up to $76, you know, and then now it's at 29. So I mean, you're not talking about are you talking about since October this popping? And so you would invest in it here? Uh
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know enough about the stock or about the company, but
how's
let's see.
trending among people, friends talk about it. Oh, okay. So it sounds like you're talking about are you talking about speculation? Are you talking about like the dot-com bubble? People would just come up and bring a stock ticker to you. I've listened to EB Tucker talk about he knew the dot-com was in a bubble when a waiter brought a napkin with a stock ticker on it,
Yeah, I read that.
you know, and handed it to him, and he was like, he knew they were in the bubble.
Well,
So
the first time I heard about Bitcoin was in 2016, and it was an Uber driver dropping me off, and he was missing half his teeth. And I
mhm.
thought, okay, first off, do I take financial advice from an Uber driver? Okay,
Mhm.
and then second, um, he's missing half his teeth. I lost credibility very quickly there, but I did look into it, and I couldn't really figure it out. But I didn't have anybody else in my circle doing it at the time, so it became something that just kind of faded off. But it was around $800 a coin at that point, which would have been a great time to get in. And then I've got a brother-in-law that had the
He was like,
opportunity.
"Dang, that Uber driver was right."
He was right, man. The dude's probably totally rich and has the best looking teeth in the world. I'm just telling you. So don't judge a book by the cover either. But I didn't know if it was one of those situations where it's like, okay, this is too late to get into because now the Uber driver's telling me about it,
Mhm.
and it was
Yeah.
way early. So
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, it's for sure.
yeah, exactly.
All right, you all. Well, I
JT's
gotta get
awesome.
going. I gotta get going. JT over here laughing. I gotta get going, man. Appreciate you coming on, Stacking
Hey, thank
Surfer.
you.
Where can people find you at if they're not already
Sure.
checking out?
Let me throw it in the chat real quick for you
Yeah,
guys.
throw your channel in the chat, and then I'm gonna be coming on Surfer's channel soon. So be sure to be on the lookout for that as well.
All right, let me just get my link for you guys.
Appreciate you all. Fight over here laughing. Cito said, great stream. Appreciate you. Homestead said Uber drivers might be the next shoe shine boys.
Yeah, it could be true, guys.
let's see. Let's see. Neophyte said, Money Level Show, bro. You chopped up all my comments. LOL. No, I wasn't trying to chop them up, man. I was just trying to provide, my insight on it. We try to come on be level headed. And not saying that, your comments could be right. I just right now I'm just not I'm not into the coffee stocks. I mean, that's like a sector I'm not really into. And then which I mean, restaurants are doing good. I mean, at one point I was invested in what was it, Cheesecake Factory. So and they seem to have a pretty decent valuation and stuff. So I mean, you do have some stocks there that you can get into. As far as the Dutch Bro is going to be the next Starbucks, and I don't know. I can't even predict that far out.
So another guy I follow that's not too far from where I live is Mark Moss.
Mhm.
I don't know if you've heard of him or not, but one of his philosophies that I like, and he may have picked this up from someone else, is let's take Dutch Brothers for an example here. He said, if you've got a budget that you would like to invest in a stock right now, and you have a number you're thinking of for Dutch Bros, take the percentage probability you think of it going up versus the probability of it going down. And you can use that to make an investment, and then you end up hedging yourself a little bit. So if you think there's a 20% chance it's going to go up, take 20% of that number, and maybe you put some of that on the investment. But I'd be careful with doing something you haven't done full research on yet, or understand the industry, really, really well. I understand tech really well. So when I see a new technology come out and I use it, a lot of times I can tell if it's going to be something that's going to gain legs. Right now, what's the hardest one is AI. I sell AI right now, and we have a very specific tool that's best of breed in the market. But when I look at things like YouTube, I can use AI to take a video like this and chop it up into 20 different videos. There's like 20 companies that do that, and they just keep popping up out of the woodwork. It'd be really hard to make an investment choice on which of those would be a good one to go with right now. None of them are publicly traded, but there's just too many of them right in the market to be able to determine who's getting traction.
Yep, definitely. Be sure to go check out Stack and Surfer. All right, great stream. Appreciate you, Homestead, coming by.
Guys,
glad you got something out of it. Yep, Mark Moss is great. Yeah, I've been watching Mark Moss for a while too. Did he move? I thought he moved to Puerto Rico. Is he still got a home in Cali as well?
He moved back here after, there were requirements out there he didn't want to deal with. So he moved out here again. And then he's got kind of like a second place out in Austin.
Okay, got it. That makes sense. All right. Yep. Heard of Mark Moss. All right, y'all. see why.
Be careful, guys.
Oh man. Yeah. Be careful out there, neophyte. Don't get into the watch my recent interview with Gwen Preston. I just put it out today, and we talked about the whole got a hunch, bet a bunch, kind of mentality. And I think that, like, obviously, if you're going to speculate with some cash or whatnot, cool. It's a speculation. You're not throwing a whole lot of capital in, but focus on that long-term portfolio. And and I don't know which company's gonna survive all of this. And so, all right, you all, I got to get going. I got to work in the morning. Appreciate you, Surfer, for coming on. Let's find a time me to come on your channel.
That'd be great. We'll definitely do it.
All right, sounds good. All right.